Larry said, Illinois is a very long state. And if you go to the absolute tip of it, which is basically about 100 miles south of where I come from, you go to a little place called Cairo. Cairo has been a blighted city for many, many generations. And there a man named Connell Smith came and started organizing workers. A carpenter in my former life as an archivist came into my office once and sat down because they knew I liked a good story. And he leaned back and he told me, as the story goes, Connell Smith went down to the shore there in Cairo and was organizing workers. And he told them, listen, let me work for you. Let me help you negotiate your salaries, your wages for a month or two. And if you like it, we'll continue. If not, that's fine, and I won't take a dime. Well, Local 773 of the Hide Carriers and Common Laborers, now known as the Laborers International Union of North America, Local 773 now boasts well over 4,000 and will soon hit 5,000. It is one of the largest locals in our international and covers a wide variety of people. As an organizer for their group and a field representative, I have healthcare workers, I have bus drivers, I have professors, I have any person imaginable. And it's because of Connell Smith. I would not be afforded the opportunity in Southern Illinois, realistically, to have a union salary if it were not for the work of this man. When we got the archives there at Southern Illinois University and I was going through the papers of Connell Smith, I would come across letter after letter where he worked, trying to find work for everyone, not only his members, but disenfranchised people, African American women. He was trying hard, and this was in the 1940s, to find work. Women weren't even in that union at that time. But when it came into the 70s and we started with public and private employees, a place for me, things really moved. And I am forever indebted to a man named Connell Smith. And with all those great things he did, he was guided daily by one philosophy, one question. Who can I help today? When I interviewed his wife, who passed earlier this year, Mary Jewel Smith, wonderful woman, she told me of an evening once where Connell was just restless and he was touchy and grouchy, and she said, well, Connell, what's wrong? He said, Mom, I don't think I helped anyone today. He was just hard to live with. She said, come on, we're going to help someone. They got the kids up, put him in the car, went out, found a man hitchhiking, gave him a ride to the next day, tried to help him find a job. He could sleep that night. And I think, what a better world would it be for each of us if we would wake up every morning and say, who can I help today? Two of our inductees tonight. Not only is he the son of Connell Smith, but when Regina was lost in that plane crash, she was traveling to a meeting with Ed that evening.
Thanks, everyone. Ed was a great friend of the Labor History Society, and Ed is president and CEO of the Union Labor Insurance Company, and was representative for the laborers in Southern Illinois at that great local that his father started. And again, Ed, thank you and for coming all the way here.
Thanks, Judy. What an honor to talk about my dad. And before I do that, I want to just thank Judy Simpson. Judy, the laborers 773 represented the ground maintenance employees at Southern Illinois University. And because they're union members, they had a great contract. And the librarians, where Judy was, says, how do we get a contract like those ground maintenance laborers? So Judy organized the librarians at Southern Illinois University. And we gave our papers and archives to Southern Illinois University. Well, Judy's reading all those papers about my day. And so she's the one that submitted this. I'm so proud of that you did this. It's a great honor. And before I do, I want to talk a little bit about him. I just want to mention a couple other things. I saw Ron Peters here at the University of Illinois. Ron used to run the labor classes and schools at U of I. And I had the pleasure of meeting Regina Pope because we sat together in one of those classes many, many years ago when she was down at U of I. And we were a big organizing of public employees in those years. I want to mention too, Bob Gibson, who's our other honoree. Now, in years of late, Bob Gibson and I did a St. Louis Cardinal game with Alan Dixon. And we lost Senator Dixon recently. The other time I'd see Bob was at Gulfstream Racetrack Ranch, so I know that he's enjoying retirement. But just a couple words about Bob Gibson, and Rich, you'll fit right into this too. I was lobbying the Illinois legislature as a young rep for the Laborers Union when Bob Gibson was head of our AFL-CIO, and he's going to talk about it tonight. When we in this state had right to work come out of the House Labor Committee, when we had our back against it back in the early 80s, and if you remember in the 80s, and we're under siege today, damn right we're under siege today. We were under siege then with the air traffic controllers all being fired, and Reagan sending a message, this is how you deal with workers, this is what you do. Every time Reagan took us on in Illinois, Bob Gibson passed legislation through Governor Thompson to stop right to work, to stop a tax on prevailing wage. That's what Bob Gibson did. One of our greatest leaders. I was so lucky to be in Illinois in the 80s because we had Bob Gibson and we were able to fight back what the Reagan administration was trying to do. We lost so many battles in the 80s. And the one hero we had nationally was a guy named Rich Trumpkin, who led the Pittston strike. The strike that we wanted to the Rich Trumpkin knows where Southern Illinois is, because when he was campaigning at the age of 32 years old to be president of United Mine Workers, he was down in DuQuoin and West Frankfort and Benton and all our towns in Southern Illinois. So you've got a great lineup tonight. Let me just introduce my wife Betty, who's a 38-year member of Laborers Local 773. And the current president of Local 773, my son Matt. Stand up, Matt. Matt has a son named Trevor, who will be 5 years old this January 17th. When he was born January 17th, 2010, I said, Matt, we have to take Trevor to the February union meeting and introduce him to the membership. Which he did. He brought his little boy Trevor to the February union meeting in 2010 and helped Trevor, little Trevor, about 10, 12 pounds, as you can see his grandpa and his dad. And we introduced Trevor. We said, Trevor, your great-grandpa, who we're honoring tonight, your grandpa, your father, and now you are the next generation of Laborers Local 773. And we were talking earlier, I didn't know any nursery rhymes. So what I taught Trevor is, you can't scare me, I'm sticking with the union. can't scare me. I'm sticking with the union. Well, a little bit about my dad, and then I'll got a great program. We're going to hear from Bob Gibson. We're going to hear from Rich Trumpet. My dad was born 100 years ago, February 14, 1914. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch wrote an article about my father, not very flattering article, back in the 50s, and said he was born in a river shanty outside the protective levee walls of Cary. He rose up to be a union organizer. He worked for 10 cents an hour in a cottonseed oil mill. He got an extra nickel if he didn't take his lunch. He knew a better way. He was able to get on WPA. He drove a car for FDR's first election in 1932 when he was only 18, not old enough to vote. He had to be 21 in those days, but he was active politically. He started farming unions, and that's what he did. And he organized for my union, the laborers, the Technical Engineers Union, the Teamsters Union. He was an organizer involved in numerous strikes. Southern Illinois, I always say, is a rural area, but it has the strongest union history, primarily because of Rich's United Mine Workers. But all the other unions are in Southern Illinois, too. Guys like my father, who would be so flattered to be honored tonight, he said, "What's the big fuss? All I was doing my job." But Southern Illinois has a great union culture to this day. When you go down there, the construction workers union, we still have the union facilities. Certainly, the university's entirely organized, the most organized university in the nation. We have a great culture in Southern Illinois. My dad, along with a lot of others, was part of that. He left us like so many others did and went to World War II, 43, 44. After he got our local charter, was head of our local. He had 4 brothers. He came back. His best friend was in charge of the local. My dad said, "I'm back." He said, "Well, that's too late. You're not getting it." My dad ran against him. Best friend, the only time my father ever had opposition for any office, and beat him and took the local back. 1945. He was there until 1976 when he retired from an organizer in the 30s. I'll leave you with his poem. Here's what, and Judy said, if you go into our local union hall, it says, "Who can I help today?" Our union hall is dedicated to my dad, Connell Smith. My mother, who passed away earlier this year, worked at our local union office till she was 87 years old. My dad died in 1988, and she kept coming to the union hall till she was 87, and we lost her this year. Amen. World War II, she was a machinist working in a defense plant. My dad was already head of the labor's union. He had a poem that he believed in, and went like this, and I'll leave you with this. "I saw a group of men in my hometown. I saw them tear a building down. With a heave and a hoe and a mighty yell, they swung a beam, and the building fell. I went to the foreman and said, 'Are these men skilled?' He laughed and said, 'No, indeed. Common labor's all I need. For I can tear down in a day or two what it took a builder 10 years to do.' I thought to myself as I walked away, which of these roles am I going to play? Am I the type that constantly tears down as I make my way foolishly around? Or am I the type that builds with care in hopes that my country, my family, and my union will be glad that I was there?" Thank you very much.